Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to the third round of the fifth season in the E-BaTCC Championship on the World Sim Series platform. We head over to Estonia, the Porsche rink, where the hot-headed 325 Cup drivers will battle their way for the win of this event. Two races, 20 minutes long of each. 10 drivers reverse starting grid for the second race. Now the qualifying session is live and on. Ungurs currently holding the provisional pole position, and he's looking for the maximum amount of points this afternoon to conquer the man Edvinas Žadeikis, who is currently first in the standings. Good news and bad news for the driver from Lithuania. He has 109 points, a comfortable 8 points lead, but his car has 30 kilograms of weight added to the ballast. And currently the second placed Gubadevs, he has only 5 kilograms, while Svetin's 10. And Ungurs, he's currently fourth, 89 points in total, so that's 30 minus from current leader. But his car has 10 kilograms. Ozolins is currently fifth with 0 kilograms added to his weight, so we can keep an eye on these drivers. They will try to battle it out as hard as they can, and the Porsche Ring's track, well, it allows some close battles. It's pretty wide, has a couple of good overtaking opportunities. I'm pretty sure it's going to be an interesting race this evening, as always, as it was. Hopefully the drivers will be able to drive as careful as possible just to try and reach the finish line. Edvinas Žadeikis, he just returned to the pit lane. I believe his tires were gone, so it's a pretty tough qualifying session for the Lithuanian, though he's still doing pretty okay. 2/10 down from Ungurs, and the gap is pretty tight again. 22 drivers fit, well, let's say 21 drivers fit into 1 second. We have the lady on board in the first division. Good afternoon, Amelia, and best of luck for you in this virtual event. Nice to see you in the top split with the real fast drivers. Amelia is constantly performing, constantly evolving, and she is always getting better and better. Only 8/10 from the fastest lap time. That's quite an astonishing result, and you need to put in a lot of work to try and be as fast as you can in this first division. Look at the gaps in the top 12 standings. Only 5/10 separate the first and the 12th position. Julius Kirsch is the driver, the man from the real championship. From the Masters class. He was really quick in the pre-qualifying session, and I think he'll be doing quite a good job this afternoon in the third event. What else do we have? Svetins, he's currently third, and he's third in the championship standing, so he's doing okay. He was pretty fast in the first 2 rounds, though a little bit unlucky in some of the cases. Kovalevski's already back into the pit lane, meaning that his qualifying session is over, and he cannot be sure with his second place, though that looks safe at this moment. But Svetin is on the racetrack. Svetin has 10 kilograms of ballast added to his weight, so he's gonna struggle slightly to run a little bit faster. Ungurs also with 10 kilograms, he's currently first, so that means that, well, weight is still not everything for the drivers, and if you have a heavier car, don't have to give up and just try to do your best. Out of the final corner, Ungurs is already in the pit lane. He could not improve. He stays first. Svetinis crosses the line. Well, that does not go faster. He's still third. Edvinas Žadeikis on the racetrack. Gubadevs is fifth, and he's already in the pit lane. Mickiewicz is sixth. And already dropping to 7 because Ostlund is up to 6th. Mickiewicz is 7, and he crossed the line and he didn't go faster. Jofert 8th, so that leaves a couple of drivers still on the racetrack, including Talianos, Jofert, and Žadeikis. Žadeikis, he's a little bit further behind Jofert. What about him? Stays 8th, and Edvinas Žadeikis trying his luck around the final corner. Tries to nail the apex gently on the wheel, early on the power, as this man is used to do also on the real tracks. Crossing the line, and no improvement for Edvinas Žadeikis, so it looks like the end of the qualifying session. Well, it didn't see any surprises, and we finally have our grid formed in the first division for the fastest drivers. So go quickly through the results, and as mentioned before, Ungurs managed to take the pole position in the middle of the session, and he held there for the remaining session. Kovalevskis with Road Racing currently second, and Svetin's third right behind. Edvin Žadeikis dreamed to drive fourth, Gubarevs without any team fifth, Ostlund sixth, Mickiewicz 7, Jofert 8, Graudinis 9th, Straupe 10th, Zaikin 11th, Kiršis 12th, Narbutas 13th, Meškelis 14th, Demskis 15th, and Sirmais 16th, Wright 17th, Ozolinch 18th, Talianos 19th, Ulvidaite 20th, Zavarskis 21st, Thompson's 22nd, and do we have Rokas Baciuška on board? It looks so. His lap time is currently pretty slow, but that's the Lithuanian driver who drives in the famous Dakar series. Nice to have you on board, Rokas, and best of luck in the race. It's not the easiest task to compete against these fast drivers who are already on the grid, and we should try and put our race control cars somewhere in between the drivers to follow up closely with the start of the race. Second division has seen Izokas taking the pole position, Ramadan second, and Buchinskas third, and we have a total of 3 divisions with Stepankovsky first, Contreras second, and Vaishchuk third. The pace of Talianos a little bit comes a little bit as a surprise, because he was really fast in the pre-qualifying session. Looks like he was not able to put a good qualifying lap time together, and it's not always the easiest part, because you have a lot of drivers around you, and if you don't pick a perfect spot on the racetrack, sometimes you can run into troubles on your very fastest lap. There are not a lot of fast laps on these tires. I believe there are roughly 3 or 4 fast laps where you can go faster, and then you have to come back into the pit lane. Now, in 34 seconds, we'll have the start for the first race of the third round. And don't forget, the drivers are on very cold tires, and even in the qualifying or practice sessions, it takes roughly 2, maybe 3 laps of intensive tire warming to put heat into those tires, and without heating them, well, the drivers have problems heating them up. So during the race, that's gonna be a very serious issue for a lot of drivers, and they will have to find good braking points to not outbrake themselves. All lights are on, and the third round is underway. Ungurs with a good start, a little bit of wheel spin. It looks like Kovalevskis takes a slightly better start on the outside. Ungurs goes defensive, and it looks like he'll stay on the inside safely. Riding on board with Ungurs, and Svetin's right into the inside. It looks like Kovalevskis ran a little bit wide, so he led 2 cars through, and we have a lot of KTK Racing Divisions, our main championship sponsor cars, right behind them. That's Jofert, who's currently 5th, trying to hold on Kovalevskis. Don't forget, it's really slippery out there, and you have to keep with the cars, and we see a lot of incidents, and we've seen a lot of them in the previous round. Look how clean the drivers are running around those corners. So, and as I'm saying this, it looks like Straupe was off the racetrack. He's currently last. I think it was Straupe who was off the circuit. And Edvin Žadeikis into P2. How fast is that? A little bit too early on power. He slides wide and gives the chance for Svetins to fight back. Let's ride on board with Kovalevskis, who's fighting with Jofert on the outside. Edvin Žadeikis lost the position, so the tires are cold. The move was really good by Edvin Žadeikis, and he was really late on the brakes. Side by side, plenty of space between the drivers, so Svetin's giving a lot of room for his opponent. It looks like he's just looking for a good race and doesn't want to keep in troubles. And look at Kovalevskis, slight tap from behind. That's Graudinis, I believe, who ran into the back end of Kovalevskis, and that gave the chance for... I need to understand what's happening on the racetrack. So basically that's Graudinis who went past Kovalevskis, so it looks like that was Gubarevs who had a contact with Kovalevskis. Now Kirchis is in the battle. Žadeikis up to P2. He's currently holding there. He has a very heavy car, so he's going to have a really tough race, but maybe the weight helps him to warm up those tires, so that's why he needs to use that speed advantage as soon as he can. Kirchis side by side into the banking, a slight touch between Kirchis and Kovalevskis is currently just dropping places corner after corner, and now he's P7. He needs to settle down as soon as he can, and he lost quite a lot of time already battling his rival, 6 seconds behind Ungurs. It's not doable. Even if you had a clear track, it's already a pretty hard task. You have seen how tight the laps were in the qualifying session, and the drivers are really similar on pace, so you have to act as soon as possible. But if you stick up with the other drivers, battling them on the racetrack slightly too long, you start losing a lot of time, and that's when the gaps open up and those small groups of cars are forming up around the racetrack. Ungurs without any problems, 2 seconds ahead of Edvin Žadeikis. That's Jofert right on the back of Svetens. Looks like Žadeikis just made a small mistake. He lost 1/10 in the battle for the lead, though he was the fastest driver while he was crossing the line. But I think he braked a little bit too late into the first corner. It's a tricky corner. You always want to brake as late as possible because it's a slow one. But if you do that too late, you risk to lose 1 to 2 tenths, of course, if you're right on the limit of your pace. But you have to risk it. Edvin Žadeikis looks like he's not trying to catch up with Ungurs. He's just trying to build out a gap between himself and Svetens. Svetens is his main rival in the championship at this moment as it stands. Gubarevs is second in the standings. He's only 9th on the racetrack. So far so good for the current championship leader. But that's far from over, and the second race will see the top 10 drivers starting in a reversed order, and currently Ozolinc, who started, I think he started 17th or somewhere near the back. Let me check up with that. Yep, he started 18th. Now he's up to 10th, which would give him the pole position for the second race, but he needs to hold Narbutas and Sirmais off. Miškelis is also right on the tail of this group of cars. Riding on board with Narbutas, he's 11th. This is a big battle for pole position for the second race. We are 5 minutes into the first run. Edvin Žadeikis with the fastest lap time again, while Jofert is right on the tail, and he's still on the tail of Svetens. This is a nice little battle. We see, I think that's Kirchis and Kovalevskis in the background, a little bit closer together. 6 tenths separating the drivers, so maybe these were my eyes telling little lies, and I thought that Kirchis was going side by side, but that was not the case. Still on board with Svetens, and running behind him now in the seat of Jofert around the Porsche Ring racetrack, bringing a little bit later than Svetens. Well, you lose a little bit of time if you brake too late, because you are late to get back on the power after late braking, and Jofert runs a little bit wide. Good news for Svetens. He can relax a little bit now while looking at the rear view mirrors. Finally, Ungurs brings up the temperature into his tires. Now he's the king of the fastest lap, 1 minute 28.2. So Ungurs continues his lead, and it looks like the first race is gonna go into the hands of Ungurs. But the biggest question is who will be the winner behind him, and currently Žadeikis still in P2, Svetens third with a close battle with Jofert, and then there we have quite a lot of battles with the drivers running one behind each other. The gaps are pretty small, and that is just a proof how fast these drivers and how equal they are. And I don't remember any previous championship where we had such an equal grid racing on the racetracks. So the drivers they have really prepared for these races, and they always perform really well. Zaichin is down into P8. This is another driver from Estonia who shined in the pre-qualifying session, but it looks like he's struggling a little bit during this race, though his previous lap time was 1 minute 28.2, so almost as fast as the lap time shown by the leader on the previous lap time. So this is just the proof that, I will mention that again, the grid is really equal, and if the drivers suffer to put in a good lap time during the qualifying session, that means not the best news for the drivers, because it's really hard to keep up with everyone and make those overtakes to try and get a little bit closer to the front of the grid. So it's one of the most important runnings of the weekend, the qualifying session in these cars. You have to nail at least one lap to start as high as possible, and 2/10 sometimes mean that you lose 5 or even more places. And that doesn't mean that the driver is slow, it just means that, well, he ran out of luck, or he just made a small mistake. There's not a lot of time in the qualifying session, it's 15 minutes, but remember, you have to bring up the heat in the tires, so you lose roughly 3 laps per running, which is 5 minutes together, including that out lap. So that makes your qualifying session 5 minutes shorter, and that means that not all the drivers can put in a fast lap, especially if they run into traffic. That's Narbutas and Ozolinch still in the battle for the provisional pole position. Looking a little bit further what's happening in the background, it looks like this one is the closest battle on the racetrack. Well, Rokas Batsushka is currently right on the tail of Gytis Dimskis. I believe Gytis Dimskis, he was just overtaken by Rokas Batsushka, and there are some hardware problems for Dimskis. He just said that there are some problems with his pedals. Running behind the rig in the first corner, but Sushka stays in front, and yep, definitely Dimskis is running pretty slow. He's now in the eyes of Thompson's, and well, you have battles all around the racetrack, but currently all the positions still remain the same, a couple of position swaps. And even though we have a couple of places on this racetrack to make those overtakes, the racetrack offers plenty of space for both drivers battling for position, meaning you have a couple of lines, and not only the offensive line, but the defensive line is there, and it's really hard to make that move, and maybe most of them are kind of waiting to make a gap between themselves and the drivers behind, just to try and make that move on your rival. 0.8 of a second between Radekis and Svetens, 0.6 of a second between Svetens and Jofert, and it stays that way for a very long time. So slightest mistake by the drivers means that they risk to either lose the ability to stay in front or drop your rival further into the distance. They have to be really focused at this stage of the race and avoid mistakes, and it's sometimes, or in most cases, easier achieved if you are running behind your rival. So you see his lines, you see your braking points, and you kind of trust the driver in front. Julius Kirsch is running really wide on the banking. Kovalevski is still a little bit too far behind to make the mistake, to turn the mistake of his rival into his own hands. Jofert with a lap time of 1 minute 28.3. The gap is still 0.6 of a second. Well, it changes slightly while the drivers run around the corners. but it looks like with the fastest lap time, 2/10 faster than the last lap of Svetens. He's still 0.5 of a second behind him. So a couple of better corners, and then maybe you make small mistakes in the next one, and the gaps are kind of being like glued between the drivers. 8 minutes till we see the finish flag waving towards the drivers. We'll have a short break after the first race, and then currently Narbutas holding the 10th position now. Zolinch lost 2 places in the battle, and he's now 12th, which will give him the 12th starting position on the grid for the second race. So Narbutas is currently up to P10, 1.6 seconds advantage against Sirmais. Looks like this orange car is going for the pole position of the second race. Still 7.5 minutes remain, so that gives us roughly 5 laps of racing, and the racing is currently, well, the drivers are doing a really phenomenal job keeping to the positions where they are at this moment. The gap between Ungurs and Radeikis is also kind of glued together, so there's nothing more that most of the drivers can do, just maybe try and provoke mistakes of your rival. So you have to keep pushing, you have to keep up with the drivers and basically stay at the same gap. What's happening with Meshkalis? Meshkalis now losing places. He dropped behind Dimskis and Talianos. Looks like he just recovered from a mistake and, well, almost dropping to the last position where Thompson is holding up. Ulvidaite right behind Straupe. Ulvidaite is up to P15 and she's still doing good through all of this race. Yes, Straupe. Maybe he should try and let the lady into the front. That would be a really nice gesture before the day of tomorrow. But of course, I'm just joking, because this is a race and you have to perform, you have to look for your own results in this championship. Everyone is racing for points. 3 top finishers in the overall standings will share some cash prizes, and then the next fastest drivers who never raced on real circuits and never had a license will receive prizes from the championship sponsors KTK Racing Divisions. That's Kauno Technologios Collegia. They will hand out some practice sessions to the 3 drivers who have never experienced race in the real world, but they have to finish as high as they can. They don't have to win championship, because if anyone wins the championship who has ever raced on real circuits, the prize, well, sorry, but it's not for you. It's meant for the drivers who never had experience. And then one lucky winner, one lucky driver will be drawn out from all the drivers who are racing with the KTK Racing Division livery. So one random guy will also head over to the testing sessions together with the KTK Racing Division team, and he will get his chance in behind the real BMW 325 Cup race car. This is a battle between Sirmais and Mickevičius. I've missed the beginning of this one and cannot really tell who is gaining on who. Mickevičius into the inside, then there's Straupe right behind these drivers. They lost a little bit of time while battling each other, and that opens up the door for the driver from Latvia, one of the E-BaTCC championship organizers, to try and get involved in a battle like this. 3 wide into the fast right-hander just before the banking, and that's not the way to go here. There's no way 3 cars can fit into that tight fast corner, so Straupe was pushed a little bit to the outside, then he had to take a slight cut off the grass, but he managed to hold really nicely, and it looks like he managed to get on the power a little bit earlier than Mickevičius could, trying to figure out which livery belongs to whom, and it looks like Straupe is currently in a real battle with Matas Mickevičius for P13. That's good news for Narbutas, because he's still 1.7 seconds ahead of Sirmais, and then there's a big gap because these drivers keep fighting. Matas Mickevičius, he's on the inside, kind of defensive. We're running on board with Ulvidate, and she's just waiting it out until the guys will battle with each other. Who are we losing? We're losing Svetens. I've had a close eye on the battle for P3 between Jofer and Svetens. Svetens is currently third in the championship, and that's not what he wants to see. Losing positions, that's not what he came for. That's a shame I didn't see what happened there, but it was a really tight gap between Joffert and Svetens, so there might be chances that we had a small contact between the leaders. Stewards will take a good look at those incidents, and well, the decisions will be handed out as usual. After the races, we get a lot of penalties handed out to the drivers that change the results dramatically. So what you see on the results screens after the races finish is still not the biggest and not the overall truth, because well, it's still a big job for the race control to go through all of the accidents happening on the races and make those decisions, and sometimes those decisions can be hard. Kovalevski is still behind Julius Kirchis. He is not able to do anything in this race, so he's just holding on strongly and looking for P4 starting position for the second race. 2 minutes, so we are 2 laps till we see the checkered flag in this first running. Narbutas still on the provisional pole position. Gubarev's he's up to 8th after Svetens lost that position, and Gubarev is currently 2nd in the championship standings. His main rival Edvin Žadeikis is 2nd, but the next main rival of Gubarev's is Svetens, and he's far behind the battle. And Gubarevs is kind of trying to battle it out for P7 together with Zaikin. Both of the drivers, they are really fast. They struggled in the qualifying session, and that's why they are running slightly lower. Batsushka up to 19th. Ulvidate lost a couple of places. We've missed that also. It was a tight battle, so maybe the battle began on the racetrack, and Ulvidate lost 2 places, 2 positions, but she's still holding strong, and there's a lot of battles right in front of her, so things might change. You have to hold on, and you have to keep pushing as hard as you can. No matter what happens, just focus, and well, you can get a little bit of luck without doing anything, just staying on the racetrack. Miskavicius behind Ozolin. Ozolin was running 10th at one point of the race, and he qualified 18th. Lost that position, and Miskavicius is currently really interested with P12 of this race. He's right on the tail of Ozolin, while Straupe is really focused on what's happening in front, and he wants that piece of cake for himself into turn 1 on the outside. Can he do it? Braking really late. You have to force the car to turn around, and you have to keep up with the momentum, but it looks like still the line on the outside is a little bit longer than the line on the inside, and it didn't work out for Janis Straupe as we start the last lap, where, well, we are actually almost in the middle of the final lap, and now or never for the drivers to change the order they are currently running, and there are no tight battles on the racetrack except this one. It's Miskavicius and Janis Straupe. Janis Straupe on the inside on the fastest corner of the Porsche ring circuit. Miskavicius, well, he acknowledges that he already lost the position, so he just tries to stick on the outside, and he's racing pretty respectful. Tries to swap the lines, but a little bit too early on the power, and I think that's gonna be the lost position for Miskavicius. Zungurs, he takes the checkered flag. Edvin Žadeikis finishes only 1.5 seconds behind Jofert, 3rd. Great result by Grodinis, 4th. Kirchis, 5th. Kovalevskis, 6th. And well, close battles, tight grid, but well, the positions, well, they stayed practically basically the same for all of the race. This is a nice finish. Ostlund, he finds his way through, overtaking Reitz and Straupe. So Straupe at the end lost those precious positions to his rivals and couldn't keep up with That's it for race 1. Let's take a quick look at the results. As mentioned before, Ungurs, Radeikis, Jofert, Graudinis, Kiršis, Kovalevskis, Zaikin, Gubarevs, Svetins and Narbutas P10 for your pole position of the second race. Sirmais, Ozolins, Mickevičius, Oslund, Wright, Straupel, Ulvidaitė, Zavarskis, Batsiuška and Dimskis P20. Then we have Talianos, Miškelis and Thompsons. This is the first division. We have second division running. Jokūbas Mitkus taking the win in the first race of the second division. Mežaks finishing second and Slišans third. Back up to the third division, which is still racing. Zemnitsky is currently in the lead, Weiss-Chuk second and Bosworth third. So these are the provisional results of the first race, and let's make a short break until we meet again in a couple of minutes for the very hot second race with the top 10 grid positions reversed, so a lot of surprises awaits. And we are back for the second race of the third round of the E-BaTCC Championship on the World Sim Series platform. This is the fifth championship already organized by the BaTCC team. Looks like we are back in the pit lane. Not sure what's happening with the counters, but the action will start shortly. No problems whatsoever. Just wait it out a little bit. Have a good look at our race control vehicle. It's a shame it doesn't run on the racetrack for those warm-up laps, but this is virtual racing, and the drivers are forced to start the race on really icy cold tires. And well, a lot of action we have seen in the first lap of the first race and of all the first laps of the previous races, and now we'll have that reversed grid where we will have drivers who will try and go a little bit further to the positions on the first lap. But, well, the gaps are so tight. We have a lot of fast drivers, and that's gonna be a really hard task for the drivers who performed really well in the first race. Let's try to figure out which driver is at the front. 1 minute and 40 seconds till the start of the race, and this orange BMW belonging to Narbutas is on pole position. That's gonna be a tough job for Narbutas to stay in front, but the main part, there are two main jobs that Narbutas has to do at this stage of the race. Have a good start, as less of wheel spin as possible, and then of course hit the brake marks exactly the way he needs to. There are no brake marks, no counters before the first corner for the drivers to really hit the brake mark, the sweet spot of braking, so they have to pay attention to whatever point of their that they have chosen. During the practice sessions, they have to nail it. This is the main goal for the drivers, to either stay in positions or gain those. And whoever makes that wrong, well, you know how it goes. You will lose the positions. So Svetens, well, he will start the race from second position, and well, that just proves it that not all is lost. Svetens was really fast in the pre-qualifying session, and of course in the qualifying session he lost a little bit in the first race, but that gave him the opportunity to start the race, the second race, from the first row of the grid, and he will try to avoid mistakes. And that's all that he needs to do: overtake Narbutas and get away as fast as he can. Gubadevs is third. This is gonna be a really challenging race. In roughly 5 seconds, lights are on, and we are almost ready to start the session. This is the second race of the third round of the E-BaTCC Championship, and Narbutas, he didn't have the best start he could have done. He's still on the inside, so he goes defensive. Svetens around the outside. He will try to be as careful. There's someone on the grass. I think that's Kirshis who just went on the grass, and I'm not sure what happened there, but this is a huge mistake by Julius Kirshis. He did well in the first race, and I think the biggest victim of this accident is Svetens. He had nowhere to go. He was on the furthest outside line he could have been, and he was hit by the cars running from behind. Mistakes happen. We had a couple of contacts. Now, let's run through the positions as they stand now. So Gubadev's first, Joffert second, Graudinis up to third, Narbutas down to P4, Thungurs fifth, Šadeikis sixth, Sirmai seventh, Ostlund eighth, Kovalevskis nine, and Straupe, he's up to P10. Battles between, I think that's Ungurs and Narbutas. Šadeikis so late on the brakes, almost into the back end of Ungurs, his main rival of first race. Ungurs won the first race. Šadeikis finished second, stuck a little bit behind Narbutas. There was a small contact between Ungurs and Narbutas on board with the driver of the Dream to Drive team. Ungurs into the side of Narbutas. There goes Šadeikis into the inside on the curb. Narbutas, he's avoiding contacts, and well, he is kind of now stuck between the two drivers, and he's down into P6. Edvin Šadeikis tries to stick with Narbutas, and we have a couple of cars battling each other into turn one. Mickevičius against Kovalevskis. on the inside. Mickiewicz doing what he needs to do. Then there's Reitz in the background, but Siushka, he's in between the drivers. Kirsch is right on the tail of Batsushka. Well, Kirsch has the pace, but he has made... I'm not sure what happened on the first lap, but Kirsch came out of nowhere flying. Good news for the drivers that this is virtual racing, and even though the cars have damage, it's not that dramatic as it would have been in real life. That would have been a nasty crash if that would have happened on the real racetrack, and I'm pretty sure we would have been standing now with red flags. That's not the case. This is virtual racing. Accidents happen, and the drivers they don't suffer neither damage or are hurting themselves, and they continue racing. Now that's Reitz versus Kirschis. Batsushka lost those places, and there are a lot of fast guys with KTK Racing Division liveries behind, and it's really hard to overtake, but the first laps, while the tires are still cold, are the best chances for the drivers to kind of make the race change. And we see a couple of winners in these situations, and we see a couple of losers. Straupe up to P7 in the course of one lap. He started the lap from P10, now he's up to 7th. Good recovery drive from the Latvian. And Sirmais is still on the inside, braking really late, and will he hit the apex, pushing Straupe a little bit wide, but still avoiding contact. Beautiful battling between these two drivers side by side into the next right-hander, which is a really fast one, and you have to kind of steadily slow the car down before the banking, which has 2 apexes. We see, I believe, Ungurs and Grodinis we have seen in the far distance battling with each other. That was actually Jofert. Yep, that was Jofert and Grodinis. Grodinis up to P2 in the second race. Where did the speed come from? For the young Lithuanian, Žudeikis 5th, Ungurs 4th, and Jofert, well, he's not up for that. He wants that position back, he tries to get it back, and look how much time the drivers lose in comparison to the ones who run on the clear track. Ungurs already right on the tail of Jofert, and that's gonna give us a really nice little battle with between at least 5 cars at this moment. There's a small gap between Edvin Žudeikis and Marbutas. It's 2.3 seconds, but it's not gonna hold up for long if 5 cars will battle each other around the corners of the Porsche racetrack located in Estonia. A lot of drivers race here on the real racetrack, so they know the corners in and out, but that doesn't go to all the drivers, and we have drivers who race only behind the wheels of their simulators, and the fastest 3 drivers of this group, who never raced on the real tracks, who never had a racing license, they will get their hands on a real BMW 325 Cup car prepared by KTK Racing Division, one of the team that stays in the series for the longest time. It brings very huge grid to the real races, and sometimes they have 6 cars racing around the tracks on the real event, so this is a really... well, that's the target team that you would like to race at if you would think about racing in real life, and to get the chance to test those cars after doing well on the virtual races is really a nice gesture by the team itself, with Povilas Bonkevičius ahead in the lead of that team. I'm pretty sure this was the idea of the young leader of the team, Matas Mickiewicz, gets a tap from behind. Now just look how many positions he will lose, but the biggest loser, it looks like it's Kovalevskis. He tried to avoid the carnage in front, and I think he was clipped from behind, because these cars are running in tight packs, and that's what usually happens. Julius Kirsch is back to P12. I'm not sure how that's gonna end for him, and I'm not sure how that incident in the first lap started. But Julius Kirches came like a hero through the grass and into the leaders. Svetens, do we have Svetens on the racetrack? Oh, I think Svetens is already out of this race. What a big shame. That's a huge shame. He came into this race as P2. Now he's out of the second race. The first one also didn't go as planned, so I think the driver is kind of furious and frustrated, but well, that just proves how much it means for all the competitors and how much of work they put in before these races. And if it ends like that, after bigger bumps and contacts, that's really frustrating. Psyching over the curb and losing the back end of the car slightly, still around the outside of Matas Mickevičius into the first left-hander after that long straight, and Julius Kiršis is right here. He's definitely been here on the racetrack in similar situations, fighting for the lead of the races. Well, really experienced, a really experienced driver who has some nice skills, but as you can see, it's not that easy when you meet your rivals on the virtual racetrack, and you have a lot of fast young drivers, and not particularly young, but really good ones behind the wheels of sims. And well, this simulator and the model of the BMW 325 Cup car is really accurate, and I can tell you that from my own experience. I raced it on the virtual racetrack, I tried it out on the real tracks. There's not a big difference, except that you sit in that car and run around the real track, but you use all the skills that you learn controlling the virtual version of this well, interesting race car, which is basically a street car with safety equipment and small modifications to the shocks and the brakes. But all in all, this is basically a street car on Lancang tires and a slightly better suspension. Well, there will be a change in regulations in 2024 season of the E-BaTCC Championship. The cars receive new suspension, and that should make the car a little bit more twistier. Nice little battle between Narbutas and Straupe. So Narbutas, he was overtaken by Straupe, but manages to hold on to P6. A nice battle between those two. Straupe a little bit more of experience, well, at least as my knowledge can tell. I don't remember Narbutas running the first rounds of the championship, and this is already the 5th championship. I just doubt it a little bit. Yeah, maybe this is the 5th championship of the BMW 325 Cup. I can't remember or recall, and I don't have my good old friend Gustas Grimbergas together with me, who usually is the stats guy, and he would look it up. But I just doubted that it did pass 5 years already. It seems so fresh. It looks like the first championship took place a couple of years ago, so maybe my mind is already getting old and playing games with me. Who's that so late on the brakes? That's Ostlund. While Straupe and Narbutas still battle in front. Sure, Ostlund couldn't brake on time while braking so late. So he lost that position to his rival, and this is side by side, Narbutas and Straupe. Small contacts. Now Narbutas is sent to the outside, and well, he will have to settle behind Jānis Straupe. What will Jānis do? Well, he covers the inside line, so that might give a small chance for Narbutas to try and get back at him into corner 1, and we have a tight battle for the lead. 5 cars. And 4 of them are running side by side, including Joford and Grodinis. Grodinis doing a phenomenal job holding off those slightly faster drivers behind him. He's well driving nicely, and he's on the outside. If he manages to stick on the outside, he should get the inside on the banking, and he tries to hold it on. Edvinas Žadeikis and Ungurs in the background side by side. So again, 4 cars running in 2 lines. One behind each other, and with Grodinis still in front of them. Look at Gubarev's, look at how much time he has gained while he didn't have to battle with anyone. So just holding his line and saying a big thank you to the guys. Getting a little bit of pressure dropping from his shoulders. Joford got a little tap from behind. So no, this is a real battle without those taps not being avoided. Of course, if you tap me, okay, that's how we race. And Joford goes back at Grodinis. What a nice late lunge. this is beautiful move into the penultimate corner of the racetrack, still side by side. Well, Graudinis is kind of stretching his elbows really wide and is not avoiding those contacts with his rival. Still holding to P2, and he now holds the inside line. So basically the drivers who are ahead of their rivals, that's Graudinis and Edvin Šedeikis, Graudinis and Ungurs, both of the drivers are trying to take those correct lines to be defensive. And this battle, well, there is a big gap between this group and the next car. Jānis Straupe is 6th, so 6.4 seconds. So it's between the drivers. Look at Joford. He's just pushing Graudinis, small taps, but, well, he's not pushing the car off the track, but he's still reminding his main rival that he's there and maybe playing a little bit of mind games, just to try not to push the driver off the racetrack, but tries to make him furious and lead him into a mistake. Graudinis has to take that defensive line early, but that's a good line to stay in front of your rival, and he just needs to nail that apex and, well, not get on the power too early and not too late. Look at those moves by Joford. This is not the first time Joford has tried something like this. Now's the chance for Ungurs to try and go up to P3. Graudinis running a little bit wide, but managing to stay on the racetrack and back on the power. This is not the straight where you can lose the position. Joford just tries to provoke a mistake, and now that was a little bit too tight. Graudinis was pushed off the racetrack. Ungurs is forced to run on the grass. Šedeikis into the inside. Oh, and now it turns to the outside, and he manages to get in front. Oh, Graudinis on brake. Hits the brakes on time. Looks like Joford is still not happy with the outcome and with the battles with Graudinis and both of the drivers. And, well, at this point it looks like Joford, he's just pushing Graudinis a little bit too often and a little bit too much. That might bring a lot of frustration to the driver's mind. Joford losing it at the banking. And good news for Graudinis, by the way, no. And Graudinis personally, he raced at one event the last year, so he's a young Lithuanian. I believe he's currently in US of A, United States of America, so racing from abroad. He's a student learning there, but still not missing out on events like these. That's Ungurs and Joford continue their battles. Look at the gap between Joford and Straupe now. It's down to 4 seconds. The lead of Gubarevs is up to 4.4 seconds. That's how much it means. Yeah, Joford is on fire, and that was too hot-headed. It looks like we had a small connection issue because the cars didn't contact, which is good news for both of the drivers. Just Joford losing quite a lot of time. Now he's 1.5 seconds behind Ungurs, and that might be the case. Closed in the battle for P2 for Joford, who looked to be fast, but then, well, he kind of tried to make it change. He kind of tried to figure out a way how to make that pass happen. He was a little bit aggressive, and it got back to himself, and the aggressiveness just sent him on the grass and made lose a little bit of time. Now in most races, 1.5 seconds wouldn't be a big mistake. In races with 3 to 5 cup cars on a grid that is so tight on the pace, Joford lost the chance to try and battle for better positions. He stays 5th. If he will be able to remain calm, he should safely finish the race in P5, which will still not be the worst case scenario. He finished 3rd in the first race. So that's really good result by the driver from Estonia, and I don't recall seeing him in the first division in the previous races. Forgive my old memory if I'm on the wrong here, but I think Joford is still doing a phenomenal job. Maybe he raced in the previous races. Maybe that's just me being a little bit bad with my memory. Oslund, 0.9 of a second behind Narbutas. Narbutas doing a really good driving in the second race. Still holding on to Straupe. He finished 10th, started first in the second, finished 10th in the first race, started first in the second one. dropped 6 places, still running 7th, and 3 minutes on the clock, so I believe we are 3 laps till we see the checkered flag. What's happening in the background? Karolis Meškelis up to P15 after that unlucky first race. And my oh my, how many times we will have to feel sorry for Karolis Meškelis. He's always there, he's always battling at the front, but in most cases he either gets hit off the racetrack and is forced to lose at a lot of positions, or he makes those small mistakes. He's still beginning, he's still fresh into sim racing, so everything is up in front. Gytis Dimskis had a really terrible first race. He had issues with his pedals. I have spoken to him, and for a couple of laps in the first race, he said that his throttle has stuck to 50% and he couldn't go faster, so he lost a lot of places. Finished almost last in the first one, and he's still stuck behind the drivers. Not sure if those problems are still there, but he's trying kind of to hold off. Mickiewicz is into the pit lane. The reason why? He got a drive-through penalty for too many cuts of the racetrack. We have a real penalty app on the World Sim Series servers, so the drivers, they are being watched not only by the real race control, but they are being watched by the virtual one, and if they do mistakes, they get punished, and that's basically how you lose races, because if you get a drive-through, you cannot recover from it in these short sprint races. That's basically over. You have to keep your head up. Yep, down to the last position, still in the pit lane, and that's gonna be a long last or a couple of last laps for Matas Mickiewicz. I think we are on the penultimate lap of the race with Gubarevs. He's doing really great. And that's what he needs to do. He needed a good result to stay in the battle with Edvinas Žadeikis, because Gubarevs, he's second in the overall standings, 101 points behind Edvinas Žadeikis. But, well, actually, if Edvinas Žadeikis finishes second, Ungurs finishes fourth, that's going to be tight on points. Gubarevs didn't finish high in the first race. He finished 8th, so he will not get a lot of points for the first race. He will get a lot of points for the second race. Ungurs, the driver who won the first race, he's 4th. He's pushing the fastest lap time of the race on the final lap of this one. Grodin is still right on the tail of Edvinas Žadeikis and right on par of pace with pace of the really experienced and really fast driver, not only from real tracks but also from virtual ones. Look at those gaps. They're basically glued to each other. Ostlund finally on Narbutas. This is Narbutas losing the 7th spot. Still trying to hold that off. I think he just lost the position. He needs to be careful because Sirmais is only 0.8 of a second behind this battle. And if he will not be careful, he risks to lose that 8th spot. He's on the move. He will try to get an inside line, and Ostlund was a little bit too late to defend. He tried to brake earlier to try and swap the lines. This is a really clever move by Ostlund, and that's how you do it in these two left-handers. Beautiful driving by Ostlund. He just waited it out. You could see him slowing down a little bit earlier, and now that's not how you gain places. Narbutas kicking Ostlund into the back, and that's Gubarevs waving hello to his team, finishing first. Žadeikis finishing second. This is a really fabulous result. Grodin is 3rd, Ungurs 4th, Jofert 5th, Straupe 6th, and what about Ostlund and Narbutas? This is gonna be a drag race till the finish line, including Sirmais, but I think Ostlund will get that 7th spot. Narbutas 8th, Sirmais 7th, Ozolinch, he finishes 10th, Kiršis 11th, Zaik in 12th, and then we have those final finishers still battling each other. Zavarskis 13th, and as always and as usual, our results table goes mad. I think that's BaTCC, no, BaTCC standing by the side of the racetrack. That was maybe one of the drivers who was traveling on the grass, and I was really curious to see who that was, but as usual I was a little bit too slow and missed the driver who was having fun on the grass. Let's have a chance to take a quick look and the final look at the results of the third round of the second race in the E-BaTCC Championship, 5th season overall. Gobarev's taking the checker flag, Žadeikis finishing second, so 2 second places for Edvinas Žadeikis. I think he'll get quite a big amount of points. That's the way how you lead the championship, and that's the way how you gain weight on your car. Just look at the weight of Edvinas Žadeikis, and it's going to be even more kilograms on the car of Edvinas Žadeikis for the final round in 2 weeks on Tor Poznan circuit, well, where the weight will definitely play a big part. Graudinis finished 3rd, Ungurs 4th, Jofert 5th, Straupe 6th, Östlund held on to the 7th position, Harbutas 8th, Sirmais 9th. These 3 cars were dragging to the finish line. Ozolins 10th, Kiršis 11th after that first lap flyer into the leaders, Zaikin 12th, Zavarskis 13th, Meškelis 14th. Nice recovery drive for Meškelis. It's really hard to overtake the cars in this tight grid. He started from the back, so he had a couple of nice battles. Talianas, the driver from Cyprus, he did really well in the pre-qualifying session, was a little bit not visible in both of the races. Batsiushka, he joined the championship, finished 16th. A nice result by the driver who is not seen very often behind the wheel of a simulator. Maybe this is going to change with the championships like E-BaTCC. Ulvidaite, our one and only fastest lady from Lithuania, finished 17th. Dimskis 18th. Also managed to gain a couple of places. Reitz 19th, Kovalevskis way down behind 20th, Thompson's 21st, Mickavičius after the drive-through penalty 22nd, and of course Svetens, he didn't have the nerves to finish this race. Division number 2. It has seen Bučinskas taking the win, Rudzinskis 2nd and Mitkus 3rd. I believe Bučinskas finished 3rd in the first race, so that's going to be tight on points for these drivers in the 2nd division. And the 3rd division is still having a blast on the racetrack. So this was the 3rd round of the championship. It was really nice and professional racing by most of the drivers, by all of the drivers. A lot of nice battles, almost clean, but definitely a lot of work for race control after this race to try and go through all the incidents that happened on the racetrack. And there will be some decisions made, so that will and might change the way the drivers will line up after these 2 race results will get calculated. And I hope you had fun. I hope you enjoyed this one. And in 2 weeks of time, we will head over to Poland, Tor Poznan circuit. This calendar is reflecting the real calendar of the BATCC Championship 2024, so we will visit all the virtual racetracks, then we will head out to the real tracks and have those on-track battles. Hopefully no such big accidents as we have seen today in the 2nd race, but definitely no less fun as we had this afternoon. Thanks for being with us. Cheers to BATCC and our sponsors, partners, KTK Racing Division, the card you see on your screens. And yep, see you in 2 weeks' time. Have a good one.